Chapter 763, Folklore Origins. Lumion kept his promise and sat at the table with the two demonesses for only a few minutes before politely taking his leave, leaving the nearby men somewhat perplexed and puzzled. Shouldn't he have seized the opportunity to pursue further? Could this be the advanced technique of an Antisian playboy and dandyist? Walking back to his own table, Lumion saw waiters carrying a towering stack of plates, their faces a mix of confusion, shock, and fear as they walked away. All the dishes on the menu had really been devoured. The look in their eyes towards Ludwig and Lugano was as if they were staring at monsters who had crawled out of the abyss. If you knew that 2/3 of those dishes and mains were consumed by Ludwig, and Lugano and I only shared the remaining third, you'd be even more scared, worried you might be eaten too. Well, that worry would be justified. Lumion muttered silently as he sat down. Before him, Ludwig and Lugano, there was now a slice of apple cake and a cup of richly flavored ice cream. Ludwig's face was unmasked in satisfaction, the most fulfilled he had felt in a long time. This was not only because the Faysatian meals were generous in portion and tasty, but also because it didn't hurt Lumion to spend someone else's money. Lumion pushed his slice of apple cake towards Ludwig and appeared to concentrate as he scooped up the milky ice cream with a spoon and placed it in his mouth. As he savored the melting frost and the spreading taste of milk, he whispered to himself, "Have any of you noticed anything unusual around 2 of cups and 7 of cups?" After a brief silence, a faint, ethereal voice echoed in Lumion's ear. It was from the Knight of Swords Merrick. "We did notice something from Chabon Street until you approached St. Millum Restaurant, but only a slight abnormality was detected, and we couldn't pinpoint its origin. This matches Franca's description and my speculation, confirming each other. The Temperance faction's demigod is unable to catch Oxido even though they have started tracking Franca and Jenna. Can we only wait for Oxido to make a move?" Lumion thought for a few seconds and pulled out a pair of non-prescription, plain gold-rimmed glasses for disguise from his traveler's bag, placing them on his nose. He immediately saw the image of the Knight of Swords dressed in a shirt and vest highlighted in the lenses, then disappearing. The voice of Merrick became clearer. "We occasionally find such slight abnormalities and corresponding traces too, and that is also one of the main reasons we are sure that Oxido is still in the Raklev area. Can Paramita alone achieve this, managing to move undetected under the nose of a demigod with strong spiritual intuition?" Lumion, lacking a deep understanding of Paramita, could only speculate based on his past experiences. He had entered Paramita more than once. In Cordu, whether in reality or in dreams, he had entered Paramita several times. But at that time, without high-level forces involved, he couldn't judge the normal state of Paramita and whether it could deceive a demigod's senses and intuition when it unfolded. In Trier, during the Tree of Shadow catastrophe, he was involuntarily drawn into Lady Moon's Paramita, which effectively isolated the inside from the outside, preventing Trier's demigods from detecting the growth of the Tree of Shadow and the fighting in that area. It was only through Franca's use of the Judgment card and the unique properties of Madame Judgment that they managed to establish a connection with the outside world, allowing the Tarot Club's demigods to pinpoint and descend into Paramita. At that time, the demigods of Trier were far from Rue anarchy, unaware of anything hidden there, which could be understood and accepted. Memories flashed through Lumion's mind, and he always felt that Paramita could not reach the current extent. When Paramita closed, it was normal that the Temperance faction's demigod couldn't sense it even if nearby. But how could it remain undetected after unfolding right under the nose of the Temperance faction's demigod? Is it that powerful? I think even Lady Moon's Paramita couldn't achieve that, only capable of masking activities and protecting itself through distance from being detected. Lumion turned his gaze to the window, seeing 2 locals among the passers-by. One had a human skull painted purple hanging on his chest, and the other tied a bleached white human skull on top of his head. Death worship. Paramita. Perhaps Shaman King Oxido has developed a special aspect of his Paramita in the Raklev area, which allows him to unfold it in front of a demigod without being detected, at least until there's substantial interaction. Lumian speculated, piecing together Madame Puali's plan to use the folklore of Cordu to enhance her own paramita. Lumian took another spoonful of milky ice cream and lowered his voice again. Tell me more about the origins and circumstances of the Skull Blessing Festival. Knight of Swords Merrick replied clearly in his ear. It dates back to the fall of Death, when the situation on the southern continent fundamentally changed. The fall of Death caused disturbances in the underworld, leaving most spirits unable to sense or enter it, forced instead to wander its periphery, between the spirit world and the real world. As a result, when sentient beings die, they are very likely to become undead, wraiths, or evil spirits, a grave threat to the living, leading to one disaster after another. The response of the northern continent nations has been church-sanctioned purification combined with compulsory cremation. Here, the Eternal Blazing Sun Church and the God of Combat Church have had notable success with purification, making cremation unnecessary for those who have been purified. Hearing this, Lumian truly understood and appreciated the various measures taken before and after death, including consoling the dying, purifying the dead, encouraging cremation, and rewarding the discovery of deceased vagrants. The origins of all these practices was the fall of Death and the subsequent anomalies in the underworld. No wonder the old bones in the lower layers of the underground tombs are still bones, not ashes. During the fourth epoch, the underworld hadn't yet been disturbed, and the spirits had a place to return to. Some mysticism knowledge suggests that bodies are prone to transform at the end of the fourth epoch during the Pale Disaster, caused by Death's invasion of the northern continent. Indeed, it is the legacy of the Pale Disaster. Death perished during that disaster, leading to the anomaly in the underworld. Lumian suddenly realized, gaining a deeper understanding of certain mysticism knowledge. The Knight of Swords continued. The same issues arose on the southern continent, but the Balam Empire, home to many Beyonders following the death pathway, swiftly devised several solutions that quelled the undead outbreaks in certain areas without resorting to mandatory cremation, thus restoring normalcy. In other regions, however, due to ongoing independence efforts from countries like Hajenti, Paz, and the Highlands, faith in death began to wane, leading to a period of rampant undead plagues and a power vacuum. The people in these areas had no choice but to fend for themselves. Lumian nodded slightly. Is the Skull Blessing Festival a solution for the Raklev area? The Skull Blessing Festival is just one manifestation, explained the Knight of Swords simply. According to records left by the Highlands Kingdom, it appears that the people of Raklev, with the help of a former official from the Balam Empire, established a mini-state for the spirits, allowing the dead to enter and rest there without emerging again. However, this isn't the underworld. It cannot truly offer rest, nor can it completely bind the spirits. They just have to gradually fade away. The annual Skull Blessing Festival is a day for the spirits to emerge, revel, and be liberated. Keeping the skulls of loved ones at home helps to protect the family from any spirits that might stray from this mini-state, preventing them from causing harm. In essence, they created a rudimentary, localized version of the underworld for spirits to return to. A place to return to. The concept of paramita is similar, where souls return to the earth and wander the wilderness. Moreover, in paramita, spirits can return home on special days to enjoy the joy of reunion, much like the Raklev area's Skull Blessing Festival. The only difference is that here, the spirits have no path to rebirth, they can only slowly fade away. Lumian compared the local state for the deceased to paramita and grasped something subtle. He recalled something Louis Lund once relayed from Madame Puali's. What's been established is merely a small, caricature paramita, a part of the complete paramita. Lumian inhaled sharply, muttering under his breath. Could Oxido be planning to merge this local spirit realm into his own paramita, to make it more complete? Has he? No, she already partially succeeded, which is why you haven't detected her. Knight of Swords Merrick paused for a moment before responding. It's a possibility. After a brief pause, he added proactively, we also haven't seen that spirit realm. Seen, Lumian was initially startled, but then understood what the Knight of Swords meant. The prisoner pathway could directly turn into wraiths, and they should have been able to see the spirit realm, but they found nothing in Raklev this time. Lumion didn't respond, but considered another issue. If Oxido has indeed begun to merge with that mini-spirit realm, she essentially becomes a local version of death, and she must have sensed the Umbella bloodline in me. What would her reaction be? Instant anger, or seeing it as something to be exploited? Why didn't she act directly? Right, she also used the bird-clawed monster baby to discover that Ludwig nearby had the aura of a corpse, mother, adding up to what clearly looked like bait, obviously a trap. That's why she, accustomed to indulgence, held back. What she needs to do now is seek assistance. With that thought, Lumion removed his glasses and abruptly stood up.